As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council work session to order. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. First up on your agenda is the adoption or the adjustments of the agenda. No adjustments?
No adjustments.
Motion to adopt.
A motion and a second to adopt today's agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Today, we're going to start with staff introduction and recognition, and I'd like to give the floor to Jason Newman.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, members of the executive team. My name is Jason Newman. I'm the Water Resources Maintenance Superintendent. I have with me some staff that have started with us in the last 6 to 8 months. As I call your name, just kind of step forward. First, I got Ryan Kiefer. I was hired in September of 25 as a UMM1 mechanic. He is one of our success stories in the CDL program. He currently holds a Class A CDL. That's it. Next up, I got Randy Lee. Randy Lee was hired in December of 25. He comes with an industrial maintenance background. He is one of our instrumentation control tech staff members on the lift station side, and he is another success story in our CDL program with a Class A. Next, we have Hayden Probst. He was hired in June of 25. He did a internship with us prior to that. He doesn't have any water sewer experience, but we're working through that, and he is slated to get his Class A CDO at the end of this month. Next up, we have Shane Thirst. Shane Thirst come to us with 17 years of water sewer experience from a town of Olean in New York. He was a success story through the job fair of last year. And he kind of come to us, hit the ground running, coming out of his probationary period. We thought that he was a good fit for the field supervisor. So now he is currently working through the field supervisor in training program. Also another success story with the CDO program. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, we're glad all of you are here with us. We appreciate the good work that you do for the town of Clayton and for all our citizens, and thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. All right, up next, I'll give the floor to Manager Rich Capola.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Be recognizing two of our staff here for some accomplishments that they've recently completed. First, I want to talk about Todd Mellon, our budget manager. Todd recently graduated from the UNC School of Government, Municipal and County Administration course. The MCA course at the UNC is the flagship professional development program and one of the longest running local government leadership courses in the nation. Since its launch in 1954, MCA has prepared generations of public servants to lead North Carolina's cities and counties with competence, integrity, and confidence. Today, the program boasts more than 3,700 alumni serving across the state. I'm one of them too. The program itself is structured over about a year time period where every other year now they do it in person versus virtual. We have found the best experience for our staff has been the in-person one, because aside from the actual content that they're going over, the interactions that you're able to have with peers from other communities, from other disciplines within those communities across the state, there's a lot of value there and connection building that I know myself. I think I did mine in 2012, 2013, or excuse me, 12, 13 period. There's still folks that I reach out to today when we have issues come up, and I know that they've experienced those similar things in their community. So want to give Todd a quick minute to kind of talk about the program and what kind of his experience was, but congratulate him as well, because it is a big commitment, especially with that drive to Chapel Hill. But Todd?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich. Wonderful experience. And like Rich said, my career has been mostly finance budgeting, but I got to learn about, man, like everything, HR, animal control, jails, a lot of county stuff that I have zero experience with. It was really, really enriching experience. But I agree with what Rich said. The connections that I made with other folks, especially non-budget folks, I make a lot of connections with budget and finance folks who are at conferences and things like that and organizations in North Carolina. But I sat with some deputy town managers, some town attorneys, some, from folks from all walks of life in the municipal and county administration. So it was a great experience. I really appreciate all the support in general for the town, for folks to go after these professional development opportunities and learn more about what we're doing and learn more about what other people are doing, more importantly. So appreciate that. Thank you.
And again, just thank you to you all for supporting for that professional development. We will continue to look to get at least one staff member every other year when the in-person option is available, because again, we found that to be the best. Second person I'd like to recognize, Joshua Baird, our Water Resources Director. Back in December, he actually completed his Master's of Public Administration at the UNC School of Government. They actually have a program that is specifically designed for working professionals to be able to do it over a period of time, and Joshua did it even faster than I think he was expecting to have to do it, or I expected him to be able to do it, I should say, probably. But again, going off using the tuition reimbursement program that we have and being able to invest in our staff, and particularly those that are looking to broaden their horizons beyond their current work area. The MPA program at any of the schools here in the state is fantastic, but UNC School of Governments is UNC's is the preeminent one because it is basically attached with the school of government. So there's a lot of courses and a lot of information provided that is very specific to what we do here every day. Want to congratulate Joshua on receiving his master's and let him talk a little bit about the program and what he was able to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to do it. As Rich alluded to, certainly the tuition assistance was a part, certainly didn't cover it all, but helped in that, and thank you for supporting that and allowing the opportunity. Previously trained in the technical world and the sciences, found myself continued in municipal government and in a position of leadership, and wanted to be able to go back and just pick up some more of the administration. Certainly had some great mentors over the time and classes here and there, but the MPA really offered that opportunity for a deep dive into the law, organizational theory, HR, law, finance, a whole host of different topics, just to, I think, well-round myself and also prepare me for the job that I'm currently doing, and as well as just benefiting the town. So was excited about the opportunity, and UNC was good, looked at several different places, but knowing that the School of Government was there, yes, they taught theory as well as just with actual practitioners and folks out in the field that are in North Carolina, and maybe have those connections there at the School of Government. Just made it a great experience from the theory as well as putting it into practice and hearing from those that are putting it in practice daily throughout the state of North Carolina. So again, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to do it, as well as the recognition here.
So I just want to say that I'm really proud of both of you. And, it's one thing to take on a few extra classes and work a full-time job, but you also have family and children. And that's why my hat's off to you, because it's a well-rounded life. It's a good work-life balance, but it's not easy. My wife and I could hardly take care of a dog twice a day. And you guys are just meeting and exceeding and growing, and you got it going on. So I'm proud of you. Thank you for all you do for us. It's awesome. All right, up next, we're going to, next we're going to give the floor to Barry Austin, Inspections Director.
Good afternoon, Council and Exec team. I'm here today to inform you that Desire, not Desiree, was successful in obtaining her Building Level 1 Standard Certificate. She she's been a big help, not to just my department, but to the whole development community. I mean, services, yes, development service on our floor. She's willing to, take on any job when needed. It's times when she's been a great support. And I just I expect big things. Hopefully she can continue this momentum. And I look forward to obtaining all her level ones. She's like the little sister of our crew. And we're very glad to have her.
A smile is communication enough, don't worry.
But it is desire.
Welcome. All right, up next under items for discussion will be the ERP update.
While Sharon's making her way to the mic, we'll just do a little setup here. ERP, you're going to get really tired of hearing us use that acronym over the next year to 2 years probably. But Sharon's been on this project 100% of the time for the last few months that she started. And just wanted to give you guys an update of the great progress that we've been able to make with her dragging everybody along, kicking and screaming in some cases.
As he said, I'm Sharon Wiesbeck. I'm your business analyst for the ERP system. We have been working very hard with Barry Dunn, who was contracted to help us develop a very well-defined RFP for the ERP. They did evaluation of our current system, they documented key processes, and they identified functional requirements to support the RFP. In that, we had 5 options that we could choose from. The best fits were option 2 and option 5 to meet our operational needs. We selected option 5 for a phased procurement. This will help the town move forward with managing risk, workload, and organizational change. With that, we have completed the RFP phase 1, meaning that it is released as of Friday for vendors to review and submit their proposals. We're expecting their proposals, or the due date for the proposals is June 12th. We are hoping to have all the scoring committees and vendor demonstrations completed and a vendor selected by mid-September. And with that, to move into phase 2, what we plan on doing is developing phase 2 based on who we select out of phase 1. This helps us identify the API programs or information that we need to make sure everything interfaces and work together as a team so that we're not having so many workarounds. The goal is to have phase 2 out for proposal as of the mid-September, end of September timeframe, and then we will go through the process of selecting a vendor and hopefully have someone selected by February. And that's any questions y'all have for me today? That's just a quick update. We'll have more.
Any questions or comments? Thank you so much. We'll look forward to learning more.
Thank you.
Up next, I give the floor to Nathaniel Shelton with the website redesign and the ADA implications.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. This afternoon, we have the pleasure of giving you an update on our website revamp update. I know we brought this to you guys almost a year ago, I believe, and we wanted to fill you in on the progress that has happened so far. So, my apologies. So we're doing the revamp because, one, it was included in our contract. Every 4 years, we get the opportunity to refresh the user experience. Additionally, there's some opportunities to improve accessibility across the site, and with that, ideally, would also improve community engagement. So, Josh, this is yours.
All right, thank you. Hi, Mayor Council. Thank you for letting us speak with you all today. My name is Josh Props, Digital Communications Specialist. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more, kind of building off what Nathaniel was saying. So as far as starting this project, we wanted to make sure we knew that we were going in the right direction. So the best people to talk to was the community itself as well as the staff. So we started with the survey that we sent out to the community as well as internally with our staff. And we were able to get some really good feedback from that as far as some different pain points on the website. And then we used some of that information to also build into that a little bit deeper to build some focus groups to kind of get more of that detailed information that you don't necessarily get from a survey. So as far as the survey, the results we got, some of the top hits for that was more frequently updated news, more user-friendly homepage, more organized menus, and more info on our events calendar. So we definitely took that with a lot of importance as we considered how we navigated going about the update. Additionally, for the focus groups, we had some carryover. So some of our top website improvements were navigation and organization, content structure, as far as like consistency goes. They wanted more of a simpler, more visual design, so that way it's a little bit more digestible. They wanted a better mobile experience, and they also really expressed the importance of having information surrounding events, as far as like information goes, but also the design of the pages as well. And then overall core services, so utilities and billing, et cetera. All right, hands over to you.
So design updates. So what you're going to see new is, here's kind of a general overview of what the site is going to look like. So you're going to see a different navigation, a move search bar, an updated color palette, and that honestly was one of the biggest delays in this process, is trying to use our town branding that was also in a way that met the upcoming ADA requirements, which we'll talk about later. Additionally, you're going to see an accessibility tool, revised news and announcements, and secondary buttons for transparency and calendar and events. Now, some of this you've already seen implemented, but it will come out in one fluid design shortly. So when we come into the new site, again, from our focus group, we learned, and we had a navigation audit of the site, that people were getting confused. We had too many options. So what we're nixing is the how do I section. And by doing that, we've really cleaned up the buckets so everything has a clear place. So when people navigate, they can really find what they're looking for. And then through here, you'll see updated quick links, and those stayed relatively the same. They did recommend that we do a more robust Contact Us page, which you'll see reflected on the new site. News and announcements, we went from a 3 news because we have so much to a 4, so you don't have to scroll as much. And I think you guys have seen this section already. This is our transparency and planning section. So it's got all those newer pages that we built, with the capital project, strategic plan, our UDO, budget and performance pages. All that is linked right here on the home page. And then back to our events. I know Josh mentioned that, but events seem to be one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got across the board everywhere. Everybody's like, where can we find events? Where are the events? So we felt that really needed a place on the homepage. And then additionally, we've added just a more aesthetically pleasing calendar module, along with better descriptive kind of little widgets there. And then beyond that, we've cleaned up our footer. Now everything in there is more prominent, more relevant, And we're really excited about the direction that's going in. All right, Josh?
Thank you. All right, switching gears to going inside a little bit deeper. So one of the big focuses was our landing pages. Going more with the simplistic design, we wanted to update the aesthetics, but we also wanted to go to a more button-based navigation. So you have images as well as text, so that way it's a little bit easier to digest. In addition to that, for the mobile experience, we decided to switch to tabbed content, and I'll kind of zoom in so you can see this a little bit closer. So you may have noticed this trend starting to filter throughout the website, primarily focusing on the department pages, but we've been switching gears and going more to that button-based, so that way when people get here, it's all in one place, right for you to see, instead of having to look through a bunch of text, which can sometimes get overwhelming. So it's broken up into those different buttons, and then down below, you'll see you have these tabs. We've redesigned the tabs a little bit with the upcoming update to make them more modern. And basically the intent behind the tabs is so that way, as we move forward, if someone's on their phone when they're scrolling through, they don't have to go through a bunch of chunks of text. They can just open up a tab that's relevant to the information they're looking for. And just for you all to see, the footer will be the same across the board, but just to give you the full flow, we decided to keep that in there. All right, in addition to the landing pages, we're also updating the subpages to try to get that consistency across the board. What's new with the interior pages is we have the tab layout. We also updated our headers and subheaders for contrast. Currently, what we have does not necessarily meet the contrast standards. And then we also have an updated left pane navigation that will be part of this piece.
The new contrast standards, the ones that are coming.
Yes, the new ones coming up. Yep. All right, so a little bit closer look. It's very similar. We didn't want to go too crazy, and there will be variation from page to page depending on what kind of information we're trying to put out there. So it's not necessarily to lock us in place, but to give us a core baseline to start at. And so you can see the tabs a little bit more and how we'll operate with them, and some of them are already existing on pages now. And then going down to our subheaders, which will be important with what we'll talk about here in a little bit. Working on those contrast colors for the updating standard updated guidelines coming up. And the footer again. All right, so a couple things that are new and or in progress. I've been working really hard with different departments to start working on their landing pages. So as you go through, you may see that structure already there. For example, like the budget page, you'll get that button-based structure. So that's already been in progress while Civic Plus works on their side of things. You also notice the community events pages. We worked really hard to make those a little bit more robust, including maps for parking, additional details that may not have been included before. We've also been working on SEO, so as I'm building pages or reviewing or updating pages, I'm also going in the back end and working on updating the SEO, so basically search engine optimization. So if someone goes online and is trying to find information about an event or anything townwide, they get a better result from that. We're also working on mobile friendliness, which was one of our pain points that we had heard about. As well as adding some search tools to assist us. One of the examples I put in there is our waste collection page. We added a search tool so that way for the trash collection schedule, residents can actually search for their address instead of looking through a PDF. And then overall accessibility, we're working on that every day from now until forever, just because that's a really important piece. So that's the other big piece we're working on. All right, so what's the timeline? So right now we're working on design approval. So the design that you've been seeing is going through the approval process, kind of going back and forth with Civic Plus. So we're looking at now to mid-May, so coming up here pretty soon to kind of finalize that piece. And then we'll switch gears into department header approval. So right now we're mainly focused on the main site. So then we'll get into like Clayton Center, Parks and Recreation. The design has started with them, but we'll work on finalizing those pieces from mid-May till late May or early June. And then finally, the website launch, we're looking at an estimated launch date of about late July or early August, as long as all the pieces kind of fall into line.
So just a little bit about accessibility updates. I believe we spoke before that there are new, more robust standards that were coming into place depending on the size of your municipality. We fell in the smaller range, which the due date for that was going to be April 26, 2027, but that has been extended by a year. So we are now looking at 2028. So currently we operate under the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, the 2.1. So everything on the site that we have been through has been current with those standards. What we're working towards now is getting all of the content up to 2.2. And I can go ahead and tell you those are much more robust. It is going to take a good deal of work. So all this is under the, Title II of ADA, the DOJ ruling. And so basically, and this was like in the last week, the Department of Justice says, we overestimated the capabilities of covered entities to comply with the rule and the time frames provided. So basically, everybody started working, trying to get this done, and they realized this is a lot of work. And I think that hit us in waves too, most recently as well, when we learned this. Go ahead, Josh.
Cool. So we wanted to break down a little bit more about the accessibility standards coming up, but also just accessibility in general, just because it's such an important piece to our community, not just for the guidelines, but also just to make sure our residents have access to information equitably. So as far as the WCAG, the website content guidelines, they break it down into 4 main categories. There's perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust are their main buckets that they talk about. So perceivable is what you can see visually. Operable would be more like function of the different sites. Understandable is, can you understand the information coming at you? And then robust, is it also expandable across platforms? So for example, like the mobile accessibility piece. All right, this is where things changed a little bit. Typically when we think about where this applies, we think about the website, but it actually expands a lot further. So it actually includes also any mobile apps that are out there, PDFs and documents, any online forms that residents fill out, videos and multimedia, social media content, and also third-party platforms that the public has access to.
So basically, if the public can touch it, and we're paying for it, it's got to meet those guidelines. So it's not just our website, it's every platform.
All right, I won't dig too deep into these, but I did want to talk about like some of the main pieces of accessibility. So we have color contrast, clear headings. For clear headings, that's the structure of the headings. So if you're familiar with the back end, like H1, H2, like subheaders and headers. Consistency, which is what we've been working on with the button-based layout going across the board. Descriptive links, instead of click here, saying click here to view the upcoming event schedule. Keyboard access for screen readers, making it mobile friendly. Alt text, which is basically text that's tied to images so people can understand what they're seeing if they're unable to actually view it. Proper HTML on the back end. Accessible PDFs and accessible forms. And as far as why accessibility matters, there's a lot of reasons why it matters, but of course, one of the biggest pieces is equitable access. If we can make something accessible to all parties, instead of just focusing on one area, that way anybody that comes to these sites can gather that information. So we want to make sure it's equitable access. And I think that really reflects our commitment to our community. I think that's really important to all of us, that we want that transparency piece and really pushing that out there. And I don't want us to think so much of the compliance piece, because yes, that's important, but I think the really important piece is that our residents feel like they can access information and feel like they're part of the community and don't feel excluded. And it really impacts every resident, just because some of the accessibility is for residents with disabilities. It means that we can actually still use it for all residents. It doesn't just relate to them. It makes it better for everybody. All right, so going into this, since this is going to be a very big undertaking, important but big undertaking, we're trying to make a roadmap to get there, breaking it down into 3 phases. So phase one's going to be the foundational work, which we've already started. So website health monitoring, detecting broken links, enhancing our SEO, and then just baseline accessibility scanning while we're building out all the new stuff. And then also initial training. So I was actually able to take an intro to accessibility course, which was really beneficial to help round out some of the missing pieces that I may not have known before. In phase two, we're really going to be focusing on strengthening our infrastructure, and we've already been starting to do that. So looking for new accessibility tools, so assistive technology that you all saw on the homepage, content monitoring, which we already have that we're already using, and then document remediation. So that'll be another piece that we look into as well. And then aside from that, I took the initial training, but I do want to further that training with a certification called the CPACC. And I'm working towards that currently. And then I'll be taking a test to get that all squared away. And then phase three, this is going to be arguably one of the biggest pieces is the training of staff is going to begin and really beginning implementing all these new elements. And the goal is to get this ahead of time as far as possible so we can get best practice across the board. So we'll be doing a lot of training and documentation of all staff, documenting the website as we audit it, and also reviewing things as we continue to build. Another really important piece is going to be the department level collaboration. This is not a one-person effort. This is a community-wide effort that we'll have to really work together to make sure it pushes all the way down and that everybody is on the same page. We also want to work on building a centralized accessibility resources area so that way any of our staff can have a place that they can feel comfortable going to and reviewing that information so that way they can help enrich themselves with that knowledge. And then also working on vendor collaboration. So talking about the third-party applications, working with those vendors to make sure that they're doing their due diligence as well as us and making sure that information is accessible. And then the ongoing remediation, this phase will never end. We'll always be trying to get better, which is very important. So that'll be regular accessibility scans and testing, continuing that partnership with our vendors, the ongoing accessibility education of our staff, new and current, and then integrating accessibility into all work. That's going to be the biggest piece, is making it a part of our daily lives and not just something we're trying to check the box off of. This is about building something new together. And in doing so, we're hoping to build something sustainable and accessible as far as processes so that way we can all be on the same page. And a good quote to kind of take away, advancing accessibility is not a finish line, but a shared commitment. It takes all of us working together, continuously learning and improving how we serve our community. Cool. And with that, are there any questions?
Mr. Casey.
I don't really have a question. I have a couple comments. First off, I just want to appreciate this. Obviously, I think the staff knowledge and the training is important, but also the training that staff gets so they can help train some of our maybe citizens that are not as computer savvy. I'm having some parents and some adults that, you know, I have to help with this at times. Training them, showing them how to like see things is definitely going to be great. Obviously, this is one of multiple tools that we have, multiple ways to reach out to the citizens. One thing I want to make sure with respect to staff training, I think it's important to highlight the staff training with the library too. If you have people coming in, because obviously the library has computers, they have access, they'll have access to those websites. So, you know, teach people, you know, kind of how to navigate it or look up events. So then, you know, it makes them feel more confident and resourceful themselves. But again, this is one of multiple tools. So anyway, thank you for this and appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Well, it's quite evident that you're in your element. We've never had anything quite like this at the town of Clayton, and we appreciate it. Good work.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you all.
So you are scheduled for a break for the next 10 minutes, or do you want to keep going?
Go and then break afterwards.
Okay.
I'll need a break.
Sure. So we'll continue on. The next item listed on the agenda is the item for discussion. It's the fiscal year 27 budget presentation.
All right, while Todd's making his way to the stage, I'll give a little setup here. I think he's got a couple of documents maybe to hand out as well. But so for today, what we've got, and with the bulk of the discussion, I think this afternoon will be just confirming some of the great work that's been done by Todd and Laney and the team in the budget office, really working with the different departments to try to take, which is always the situation, a request for more than we can afford. And this year, we've spent a lot of time, utilizing the base budget or methodology that we implemented a couple of years ago. We spent a lot of time going through really what is the funding packages, as they're called, the additional requests beyond that standard base budget that we've generated for the team. So after a lot of hours and tinkering and trying to really weigh needs from the different departments, spoiler alert, Todd has right now at the manager's review level what we believe to be balanced budgets in all three of the funds that we operate: the general fund, water and sewer fund, and electric fund. So I guess go ahead and get the technical difficulties out of the way here. So I believe the handouts that you have right now, we provided you New World, our ERP system, the annual budgeting report at the department level, so you can see kind of the how we've got to today's presentation here of what we plan to, coming out of today with your feedback will feed into the manager's recommended budget at the next meeting on the 18th. The other one that you have is a copy of the position list that was requested and what we've incorporated into that balanced budget within the different funds with regards to the asks of the different departments. So with that, take it away, Todd.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to pass those out during our break, but anyway. Yeah, as Rich was saying, we came back. This is a follow-up from our April presentation where we kind of kicked off balancing the budget, trying to balance the budget. At that time, we weren't balanced. Happy to say we are, at least for the moment, today. Here's kind of a roadmap of where I'm going to go with this presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about general conditions, what we were seeing with the budget, kind of some of the things we did to try to get to where we are. Then I'm going to jump in a little bit more detail into each of the funds and wrap up with a quick conversation about solid waste. Sort of the things we're going to talk about with the overall update here. So, back in April, we had reported that we had received over $11 million in total requests. That's across all three funds. 160 plus individual requests. We were out of balance, and we talked a little about the external pressures, specifically some of the Johnson County Fire District funding mechanism changes, the 2.4% state health plan surcharge, and general anxiety over inflation, economic uncertainty. We could add gas prices to that at this point. So, where we are now, we've kind of refined what we expect to see, what we're projecting to see in revenues. That includes ad valorem taxes, property taxes, sales taxes. We've made a few adjustments in other revenue areas as well. We have prioritized requests. Like I said, there were a lot of those requests. We encourage department heads to advocate for the department and ask for what they need, but they're all aware that requests always outweigh resources, so had to do a lot of back and forth, some deferring, some adjusting, some modifying packages, things like that. So we'll talk about a little bit more about balanced strategies. As of today, all three funds are balanced: general fund, the water sewer fund, and the electric fund. So we did print a handout, as Rich said, the list of positions that you have color-coded by fund. The far right column would be what we are recommending to approve position-wise. The column directly to the left of that is everything that was requested. So we had 36 positions requested. That matches. That's good. 18 positions recommended. And that's how they break down there. Here's a quick summary of all three funds, kind of broken down by the major expense categories. We have salaries, operating, all the way down to capital outlay, miscellaneous. So general fund, second column, water sewer fund, and electric fund. Just a note, and we always try to explain this away because it might look odd. The miscellaneous expense line of negative $6 million, that is, again, is our support services charge, which is a chargeback for administrative and governmental services that the general fund provides to the enterprise funds. So in other words, we don't directly charge water sewer for all the services that the HR department provides, but obviously HR does a great deal of work with the water sewer fund. So that's kind of our way to spread those costs around more appropriately. They come across as a negative expense as opposed to, you could sort of view those as a revenue, and technically they're a negative expense. So that's what that negative $6 million is there. So total of about $140 million across all three funds. This is a pie chart showing proportionally where our revenues come from, the sources of our revenues. So you'll see the big maroon slice there and the gray slice to its upper left. That is property taxes and sales taxes, make up about 66% of the budgeted revenues for the year. Big chunk, right? This miscellaneous revenue, we get questions about that from time to time. Miscellaneous revenue includes anything that we're planning to finance or take out debt for, but also includes fund balance. So anything we appropriate fund balance for. And at this point, there's a slide that explains this in a moment, but at this point, the only thing we've appropriated fund balance for is for debt coverage for the limited obligation bond that was issued this year. So the way we do that is that, as you all might remember, a couple years ago, you agreed to appropriate $2 million in cash from every budget plus 5 cents of our tax rate every year for CIP. So the way that works is at the end of the year, those two funds at $2 million plus 2 years ago, that 5 cents was about $1.7 million. So that amount was moved to fund balance, but earmarked for CIP coverage, right? So this year we're appropriating some of that fund balance because we have a debt payment coming up for the limited obligation bond. So it's a lot of words, but that's why when you see appropriated fund balance here in a minute, that's what that is. This shows sort of the expense categories that we talked about before and the percentage makeup of the overall budget. And you can compare this year to the last 3 years. So you'll notice fiscal year 27, the total is a little bit lower than fiscal year 26. And the main reason for that is because we budgeted a lot of capital purchases last year that we don't have this year, right? The property acquisitions and the things of that nature. We had about $15 million in capital in the budget last year for that. So that's why you see the larger maroon section in fiscal year 26 as well. So jump into the general fund, a little bit more detail. Overall, budget is balanced again. Still at $63.2 million. We're recommending 16 FTE for the general fund. General fund is balanced with an assumption of a 3% cost of living adjustment as well. That cost of living adjustment is in line, actually a little under than the state average as reported by the North Carolina League of Municipalities. They do a merit and COLA survey every year. I think the statewide average was about 3.1% for COLA. And again, no recommended tax increase to balance this year's budget. summary of all the requests before we started adjusting things. We had 31 FTE requested, 10 million plus in new expenses, and I say asks and requirements because some of these things we didn't ask for, like the 2.4% state health plan surcharge, but it is a requirement. So 10 million plus of those. Projected revenue growth of about 6 million. So we got about $4 million to try to make up right there. Themes for the requests: workforce enhancements, equipment, operating costs, some capital outlay, and debt service. Again, that $10 million, about 1.8 of that is new debt. Revenue assumptions. So property tax and sales tax growth make up about 3.2 million of that 6 million projected revenues. Just a note on how we projected those property taxes. We get tax scrolls occasionally this time of the year that show us about what our total valuation is. We can apply our tax rate to that and figure out what our tax revenue is for that. So we have basically just budgeted our tax revenue, our property tax revenue, to remain constant from what we're seeing right now for next year. So really conservative. Similar with sales tax, we projected 3% growth in sales tax next year. That's based on just a really conservative, again, if you've been paying attention to the conversations that Robert's been having with you about how sales tax is actually coming in this year, we're projecting much lower than that. We don't feel comfortable projecting 12% sales tax growth. That's in line also with another league survey that was published more recently, projecting sales tax growth over the next year. I think they have it again, about a 3.1%. And that's statewide, right? So in the county, we've been experiencing better sales tax growth than the statewide. So the fact that we're in line with the statewide projections from the league we're fairly comfortable with that. Additional revenues, again, there's some interest income based on projections from the Fed that Robert did for us, so we can projecting conservative interest revenue growth for next year. We also adjusted some permits, fees, and inspections and planning some other areas based on actuals data from the last couple of years. There's also in that $6 million, there's the appropriated fund balance of 1.8. That's the first debt payment for the limited obligation bond. Some things we did to balance the general fund. We reduced and deferred. Seemed like a lot of requests. Phased some requests in. We, based on the coming online of some of the properties that are driving some of the requests, like Clayton Fitness and things like that. We're kind of phasing those in. Part year, mid-year appointments, mid-year adjustments. We reallocated a few things that were in the base budget to cover some of the requests, some of the funding requests that came in. So a lot of different levers to pull on there. Pulling on. So this balanced budget includes an adjustment to public safety pay, specifically fire department, moving from a 28-day to a 14-day. This is an overtime calculation thing. In other words, overtime is calculated for fire in a very particularly confusing way to me. And we will, if Chief Raines wants to add a little bit to that, he can feel free to. The long and short of it is, overtime will be calculated at 14 days instead of 28 days. That's going to result in this amount, about the $70,000 budgetary impact.
I do have a question for council. Raise your hand if you can explain how the fire department's paid. Nobody?
So not just me.
Hey, some of the fire department don't know how they're paid either. That's the honest truth. So do you understand what the FLSA rule is for the fire service? And it's only applicable to government entities. It's that we work a 28-day cycle, right? And so in that 128-day cycle, 212 is the magic number. And so the fire department doesn't get paid overtime until they exceed 212 hours in a 28-day period. Well, they get paid regular hours up until that 212, but anything before 212, the overtime piece doesn't kick in until you exceed 212. So you as a 40-hour employee, when does your overtime kick in? 40.5, right? Anything over 40 in your 7-day pay period. And so for the fire department, it's very confusing on when is, because it's always a moving target. It's not tied to a Saturday, Sunday. It's not tied to, it's tied to 28 days. And so if it starts on the first day of the month, the 28 day ends, and guess what? It starts over. And sometimes that's in the middle of a week. It's in the middle of a pay period. And so it's very confusing for staff to understand how they're paid. Back in 2024, we had North Carolina Fire Chief Consulting do some consulting for us to make sure, one, that we were paying legally, since our pay is so convoluted. And they confirmed that we were paying legally, but there were some best practices out there that other municipalities are starting to do, and one of them is adopting a 14-day 106 schedule, because the 14-day schedule lines up more with the 40-hour week employee, and that it starts when your pay period starts and it ends when your pay period ends. And so what that allows us to do is to have a true up every 14 days so the firefighters can better understand when their cycle starts and when their cycle ends, and then they can project any type of overtime like that a little better. So the goal here is to really look at best practice and to adopt a methodology that allows for our staff to one, trust that they're being paid equally or fairly or legally, and that they can understand how they're paid. Any questions? Okay.
Part of that too, just to jump in, as we move forward with the ERP conversion or the ERP process, these are some of the business rules that we've been looking at and identifying where we have things that are, I don't say challenging, but different in terms of how we do things that may make it more challenging within whatever system we do choose. So streamlining these and having it on an every 2-week cycle, just like all of our other pay periods, and allowing it to auto-calculate based on that 14-day cycle, in the long run, that will hopefully be a more seamless process for that transition later on as well.
So basically, in terms of the budget line item here, or the slide that we're looking at, it's just, there's money needed to kind of transition us over to getting in this different cadence of pay, is what I'm assuming, right?
The 14-day true up instead of the 28-day true up, and the 106 versus 212 has an incremental cost increase associated with it to the fire department, because we're truing up more frequently, and a smaller data set of hours equals up to a little bit more of a true up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's like, okay, if it makes it simpler and it's, truing up, and it makes people better able to trust the process and understand their paycheck, that seems like a worthwhile amount to put toward that endeavor, so.
Yeah, the second part of that, and I don't know if you were going to cover that, but Chief can probably explain the 15-minute overlap. So that $70,000 budgetary impact that's noted right there, excuse me, and Nathaniel's going to be handing out a little bit more a memo that we drafted for you all just to kind of explain these two requests. The 15-minute overlap, essentially that would be similar to what we're doing with our water resources, with our treatment plant operators that are also on a shift schedule. Chief can explain, but there's a need to have a little bit of an overlap when we're changing over shifts, and I'll let him talk about the benefit of that.
So now our shifts begin and end at 7 a.m. And unlike some other jobs to where there's not equipment and information associated with a transfer of apparatus, authority, information, we're struggling right now because employees come in at 7 o'clock and employees are ready to go home at 7 o'clock. And so legally, we're obligated to pay some overtime in there, which we're not doing. And so the solution is, instead of having our shifts begin and end at 7 a.m., is that the shift coming on begins at 6:45. The shift going off ends at 7 a.m. and they have a 15-minute overlap to where they can transfer information, radios, trucks, that kind of thing. And it's an issue right now. And this is I'll tell you, my previous department, we had a 30-minute overlap. 15-minute works well. They can get in, get out, and it doesn't. This does have a small monetary impact for us, but it's nothing like the overtime piece. If we're sitting there, today we're not doing anything, but we're obligated to. So,
So that $70,000 number, about we'll call it $50,000 of that approximately is attributed to switching from the 28-day to the 14-day. And again, that's total for the total annual budget impact. The other $20,000 would be the impact, plus or minus $20,000 for overlap into the 15 minutes, generally in there, 45, 25.
And Denise Sullivan, she did a lot of work on this. I want to give her, acknowledge her work on this. And she's done a lot of good projections. And so at the end of the day, I appreciate all she's done to help us with this, to get to this point.
Sorry, who did you say did that? Who are we thinking? Oh, Denise. Okay, thank you, Denise.
Denise.
And I will say too, we're trying to get more consistent across the board. So again, this, the 2-week cycle, that'll be very similar to the policy that you guys adopted a few months back with regards to our new wastewater treatment plant operators going on a shift cycle of 2 weeks. And then we are looking at police and how their business rules with regards to pay are going, and possibly making some adjustments and seeing if there's an opportunity to leverage the same 2-week cycle to a benefit to all.
Okay. And again, the budget being balanced includes sort of this provision that we're talking about here as well. Water Sewer Fund, next. Go through sort of the same game plan here. Recommended budget's balanced. I'm going to say that on every slide because I'm really happy about it. $54 million total budget for water sewer. We have 1 recommended FTE and a combined around the 9% projected increase, recommended increase for water sewer. Summary of requests, water sewer only requested one full-time equivalent. New asks totaled about 2.2. Projected revenue growth is about 4.5. And we're kind of in the opposite spot as we are in the general fund, that revenues are projected to outpace expenses. And there's a very specific reason for that. As you all know, we've been talking a long time about what we're going to do to plan for needed connections for water in the future. So this gives us, we've talked about cash on hand 100 times, I'm sure, with the water sewer fund. This increases our cash on hand, helps us plan for the future, the near-term future, but still the future, right? Some of the themes for the requests, connection costs with Raleigh and Johnston County, both on the water and sewer side, capital projects, water purchase for resale. The bulk water purchase from Johnston County is increasing 10.1% next year. Pretty big number. So, and then increasing days cash on hand again. Still some strategies. We reduced and deferred as many requests as we could, and reallocated a few of those base budget items into covering some of the requests as well. Moving on, electric fund. Electric fund is also balanced at $23 million. We had 1 approved FTE. Recommended rate increase, 2.5%. There were 4 FTE requested. New asks and requirements about 1.5, and the projected revenue increase of that 2.5% will get us to about $2 million next year. And as well, on this one, the days cash on hand, we've been trying to get up to our policy number for the last few years. And I think this gets us at least very close to it with getting that extra revenue. Themes for requests include equipment, testing of that equipment, purchase power increase, and personnel. And just a note on wholesale power versus retail power. Been a lot in the news about increasing retail rates. We just want to make sure that the price that we're paying for wholesale power is not the same thing. Our wholesale power is projected to increase from 4 to 4.5% over the next few years, as opposed to 15 to 18% for the retail customers. So just wanted to throw that in there. We reduced and deferred requests here too, phased some items in. And we do have a special request in this one. I think that our director, Matt Proctor, addressed you all about maybe last month. Was it April? The generator project. We'll talk a little bit more about that. This allows us to strategically deploy our town-owned generators across town to help us with load management, right? In order to get to that point in the future, when we get that stood up, it's going to help us reduce our purchased power budget amount, right? So Matt can jump in if I say something that's incorrect here. It's one of those areas I'm not especially comfortable in, but I think I got it. We have to do some upfront maintenance and some upgrades in some of the hardware in our generators to get it ready. But at that point, we'll be able to start peak shaving. Just so I sound like I know what I'm talking about. So this is a good thing. There's some upfront costs in the budget for this year in the balanced electric fund budget, but we were conservative in budgeting a bunch of savings in the current year, just to be sure. But we expect in future years that it's going to reduce our need for purchase power at least a little bit. Okay, solid waste. So solid waste is in our general fund. It's not an enterprise fund, but we kind of treat it like an enterprise fund in that we want the revenues that we receive from solid waste to effectively cover the costs that we incur in solid waste. The cost we incur is a contract with a supplier of solid waste services. This is the last year of our agreement, and then we'll have to go back out for some sort of procurement after fiscal year 20. Next year is our last year, fiscal year 27. So just a note on that. The policy is to fully recover costs of delivering the services. The contract that we have includes a yearly cost escalation provision, and we haven't made adjustments to the rate since fiscal year 24. So this is what we're recommending for solid waste services for next year. $2 a month increase on solid waste collection allows us to catch up to where our revenues cover our costs again, because we've had a few years of costs escalating without revenues escalating. Our customer count is escalating, but it's escalating on both sides, right? So this allows us to get caught up. Also, kind of just rounding up on extra garbage carts as well to help supplement the needed revenue increase. We're already to the end. Big picture. All of our funds are balanced. Obviously, asks outweigh resources, as is the case every year and with every municipality. We made some strategic decisions. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of math and all that sort of stuff. So we feel pretty good about where we are. So leading up to the 18th will be our budget hearing. It'll be when we present the manager's recommended budget, which is one step further than the report that you all have at your stations right now. I only printed 6. So sorry for those of you that don't have it, but that is we call that in the manager's review, I think, manager review. So the next step would be after, if you guys have feedback for us, we'll make those adjustments and just wrap it all up in a bow, bring it back as the manager's recommended budget in 2 weeks from today. Have public hearings, and we'll also talk about the comprehensive list of fees and any recommended adjustments to those fees. We've kind of touched on some of the big ones, but we'll have development fees and parks and things like that for that discussion as well. And then if all goes well, June 1st, you will adopt the budget. So plenty of time left. What questions do you have?
Can we go back to your slide on sewer?
Sewer?
Yeah.
I think. Tell me when to stop. Which one do you want?
Well, just start right there.
Okay.
The recommended rate increase is approximately 9% combined,
Correct.
water and sewer.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the increase recommended for water and sewer for this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. And I'm assuming that the reason for that request for that increase is because our cost as a town to Johnston County has increased 10.1%.
That is a major component of it. Yes.
Okay.
Also, the scenarios that we talked about before, the big capital projects that are kind of looming a few years down the road to 10 years down the road. That's all part of the model. Black and Beach did a lot of analysis with us to help us plan for both scenarios that we talked about before. So this is kind of a combination of those two scenarios where the 9% came from.
Okay. All right. Can we go to your slide on electric? Mm-hmm. So the recommended rate increase for this fiscal year budget is 2.5%, about 2.5%.
Yes.
And tell me the reason why we're going up on that again.
So I don't know if you remember, Matt Proctor, our electric director, maybe 2 or 3 work sessions ago now, we received notice that Duke Energy was going to be increasing the wholesale power rates. I think Matt, when he presented at the time, he projected that even though they were increasing our rates, I believe 4%, that the actual net impact to us would probably be about 2.5%. And so what we've been able to do is ensure that it did not go up any more than essentially the increase in the purchase power cost.
Yeah, I was trying to find, 4.5, I think is what 4.5 for next year, and then 4 to 4.5 over the next 2 to 3 years as well. Sorry.
Okay. Now go back to where you were with. So the wholesale cost for us has increased 4.5%.
Correct.
But we're only going to go up 2.5%. Right. So we're not getting the customer to pay the whole 4.5. Right. We are paying a portion. The town is absorbing to help keep costs low at 2.5%. But we still see over the next 2 to 3 years that Duke is going to have increase in cost. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be for everybody. That includes us. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So we also have, I think for the 18th, I can bring a little more detail over that, especially projected in out years, what our model is suggesting that we may need to incur. I don't think it's not 4.5% though. It's lower than that every year, 2 to 2.5, maybe 3.
Okay.
But I'll bring that and we'll present that on the 18th.
Okay. So the reason for this questioning is just because I want it to be very clear for everybody who's watching virtually, and for the record, for those here and for the record, just to make sure people are understanding how we have come up with what these requests are in real everyday language. Okay, that's all I got. Anybody else?
Yeah, to your point, Mr. Mayor, both for the water and sewer and for the electric, the purchase of the commodity that we do at the wholesale level is one of the biggest expenses that we have as an overall utility, whether it be the water side or the purchase of power from Duke. We are We are tracking with each of those entities, Johnson County, who's our primary water, our only water purveyor right now, and Duke Energy. And so we have those projections built into that model. So to Todd's point, we have projected out the 5 years of approximate increases required just to be able to keep up with them, as well as normal growth in our utility. We'll make sure that those numbers are in front of you all for next time, but we have been also working, Matt Proctor and his team have been working diligently on the electric side, for instance, of trying to stand up that peak shaving program with the generators. We're hoping that even though the cost of the total power is going up, we may be able to drop the total bill by a certain percentage by implementing a broader strategy with regard to that load management. So from an electric perspective, that's one of the strategies we've got. Water, we're still obviously working through. We have a major water supply project that's going to be happen in the next, I'll say 3 to 10 years, depending on the scenarios that we go with. And so the commodity increase for the purchase from Johnston County, plus that major water supply project coming up, those are the two cost pressures that are being put essentially on the utility from a water and sewer standpoint.
Okay, good. I just wanted to get out there and, real everyday understanding. It helps me too. Mr. Casey?
Thank you, Robert. I have a couple questions. In our last meeting, we kind of got the requested employee budgeted, but in regard to the assistant electric director, I think that was blended into a couple of different positions. So I'm just kind of curious, and I'm sure you probably don't have this answer right off the top of your head, but what that budgeted salary is for that assistant electric director, because it's not kind of specified in here.
Yeah, you probably got a total there. I don't know off the top of my head. Anyone? No, I can get it for you. Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I didn't expect you to obviously know it off the top of your head. Next thing is, so the budget worksheet, we obviously got this today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we're going to get asked this question. So when is a version of this going to be available to the public? And then, like I asked the last time, obviously, how, is it going to be searchable and such?
Yeah. I learned my lesson last time on it being searchable. I've got that fixed for this year. We'll make that available for public inspection on the 18th, along with when the public hearing comes about, and it'll be. I'll work to get it out there online as well.
Okay.
But it'll be officially in a physical copy in the clerk's office 2 weeks from today.
Okay. And the expectation is we're looking to pass the budget by June 1st. I know we kind of went through this last year, but kind of what's the drop deadline for that? I know I'm assuming there's some wiggle room in that June 1st. Not that I'm expecting us not to pass it then. Right. I'm just curious.
It just has to be passed before July 1st. So we have another council meeting 15th. Is that what? Yes, that would be the drop dead date.
Yeah, we built the budget calendar the last few years with the hope that we could get it done by the first meeting, because once there is an adopted budget, there is updating of rates in the system, testing those rates to make sure that the systems are working correctly. So not that we can't do it last minute, but we do like to try to have a little bit extra time just to make sure that all that stuff is functioning correctly, because we want to make sure the bills are accurate.
And that timeline is set forth by the general statutes.
Yeah. General statutes require an adopted budget by June 30th of every year. So if we don't make it.
What happens if you don't do that?
I do not want to find out, sir, if we can avoid that.
Well, I mean, like we live in a time where everybody knows that the state of North Carolina is the only state without a budget in the United States right now. And I don't hear what repercussions are for that, right? So I'm wondering, how is that equivalent to local government, where the state tells us you've got to get this done by this, so what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So I'm just putting it out there.
I will do some research. I assume that because they are able to adopt some continuing resolutions and stuff to be able to prolong or to continue previous funding levels, I'm not aware that we have that option at the local government level, but.
You can do an interim budget, but you can't just do nothing.
Interesting.
But you can do an interim budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Archer. I didn't mean to stray off the topic, but I'm just curious. Go ahead, Ms. Archer.
Thank you. That's awesome to see a balanced budget. So thank you. From my time as a state employee, I remember how terrible of a process that is. So thank you very much. And I know a lot goes into it. And so I really just had two comments, mostly yet about the requests for positions. So the first I noticed on there that just jumped out at me was the request for 2 police officers. And it looks like the budget includes 1. And I just want, trust everybody's judgment. You all know this stuff better than I do, but I just did want to point out that, safety in Clayton is something we hear about routinely ranking very high in our surveys and that sort of thing. So, and then it comes up a lot in conversations. I'm only one of 6 people here, but the conversations that I have with people in town. And then I just, wanted to add just a statement that, if the number of officers is a issue for us in terms of recruitment and retention, just making sure that we have an achievable workload that's spread amongst enough people, just throwing that out there really as a comment. And then the second thing I noticed here was for the planning department requests, we have a lot that weren't carried over into the recommended budget. And again, you all know better than I do the ins and outs of this, but I consistently see what seems to be a pretty high workload in the planning department as well, just as the liaison to the planning board and having conversations about things coming and going through that department. So just more of a comment on those are just some things I noticed and just wanted to express support for what both of those groups do. And hopefully they got what they needed here in the recommendations.
Thank you.
Yeah, from the police perspective, we've had that conversation with Chief Tart. You guys are very aware that we've got a public safety center, public safety facility expansion that will create a substation for the police department out on Veterans Parkway will be the next one that comes out of the ground. That's about, I think, Chief, early 28 is probably when we'll be looking to actually be operating or staffing that facility, well, occupying that facility, excuse me. And so we've had conversations about looking at possibly reevaluating the zones or whatever Chief Tart calls them for patrol. And with that, him giving me a staffing plan to be able to determine whether there's additional officers needed once he kind of reshuffles the deck. So I expect that to come up either at mid-year budget or possibly in next year's budget for consideration. On the planning department side, we're hopefully getting close to actually getting all the current positions filled. And so one of the things that we've talked about is looking at keeping kind of like we do with police and fire, where we have a continuous recruitment for policemen and firemen, police firefighters. Doing the same with the planning department and having it open with the planner 1-2 senior to be able to keep that open year round. That way, if somebody does apply that we do feel is qualified and that based on workload and need at the current time, that we can justify keeping that person busy. You guys have allowed me to have a couple FTEs to be able to make those decisions operationally during the year as they come up, assuming lap salary is available to be able to afford them. So that is going to be our strategy, is to keep those open because it is very hard to find qualified planners with experience right now. So coming out of that, it is likely that we may end up with an additional hire in that work area, utilizing one of those kind of back pocket positions. The position that did remain in, I believe, is a principal planner, but with the focus to be more on the long range. We have a comp plan update that we are hopefully going to be able to kick off this next year, as well as all of those other area plans and other master plans that we've got. Transportation plan, all of those plans that we've spent a lot of time and effort on the last couple of years. We really need somebody that's laser focused on that work area, as well as getting the comp plan updated to basically fold all of those great ideas into it. So that is why we did recommend that position moving forward.
Actually brought up some questions. So obviously there's certain open positions right now. And so the intent is to still backfill those and then include these. I know you don't know it off the top of your head, and I can think of maybe 1 or 2, but it would be nice to know how many current open positions we have. that haven't been filled yet?
We have a dashboard.
I was just going to say.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah, I don't know what the number is. I think it's about 33-ish across the whole town. We've been keeping pretty steady at about, I don't know if you're specifically asking about planning, but we've been keeping a pretty steady, like 7-8% vacancy rate over the last 3-4 months.
Okay. Good, appreciate it. And then I had another question, but this conversation sparked that one. The other question was, public hearing about the budget is the 18th. I know, and I've seen the information before, how that's kind of educated to the public, but just want to make sure, we're Facebook, if we can do it in our mailers, to our utility mailers and all that, that's just, we got a good game plan, because we've seen them many times, not with us, not even just with us, but with the county. We have these kind of public hearings, and it kind of seems like, well, people, don't seem like they don't, hear about it. And even though there's a lot of advertisement and effort to put information out there. So I just want to make sure that's not forgotten, and that's top of mind.
Yeah, no, we will certainly make sure. There's certain statutory requirements for advertising and all that, but we definitely do try to go above and beyond with Facebook posts and those kind of things. The other thing is the work group, the engage community partners,
Education partners.
community education partners. There it is. Man, I got to get that acronym down. The community education partners, that's part of the reason that Todd and Nathaniel, the team, spun that group up, is to be able to hopefully get some more direct input as we're going along, as we're doing this development of the budget and whatnot. I believe we've also strongly encouraged them to come to the public hearing and provide input, because we are still waiting for that first person to show up.
I'm hoping, we had a conversation in the last few minutes of Tuesday's meeting. I've certainly encouraged them to come and share their experiences, good or bad, with the group on the 18th. Hopefully they're streaming today too. We plugged that too, streaming from home, and then we'll come here on the 18th.
I was able to find out that we have 13 vacancies. 2 of those are continuous postings for police department, and then 1 other.
Okay, thank you. I did have one, again, spark another conversation, thought process. We're all liaisons to boards within, the community. So, I'm going to make a note to the 2 boards that I report with, to let them know about the budget. That's, not all the community, but as a fraction of the community, to just kind of let them know that this budget's out there. So anyway, just some food for thought.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So, one more thing, solid waste.
Yeah.
So I have in my notes that we are in our last year of contracted services with who we deal with.
All-Star Waste.
Right, correct. And then.
Oh, I thought you were asking me.
No. It's All-Star. Yeah. They do good. They do pretty good work. If they could learn to get the trash can not back in the middle of my driveway, it'd be fantastic. Or in the street, but it's okay. Yes, or in the street, which is 9 times out of 10. But we're not looking at an increase in solid waste. Is that correct?
$2 per month is what we're recommending for solid waste trash collection for 27.
And
that was because, I'm sorry, Rich, go ahead.
No, I was saying, so we've been looking into this a lot, especially because this is the final year of our contract. So we've already got to get prepared to start bidding this out probably later this calendar year, so that we don't have any break in service. But the current contract has escalation in it. So there's a certain percentage every year that it can go up. But the other part of that, we've got concern right now that we've been getting hit in the last few years, the fuel surcharge. So there is a provision in the contract with regards to the diesel price. Obviously, where we're at right now, anybody that's been to the pump recently, for whatever kind of fuel you're purchasing, it is certainly beyond what is our contractual, the price is certainly beyond where our contract currently engages that fuel surcharge. So as part of that, we need to go ahead and try to get back to a cost recovery model on that, on solid waste. So going from $24 a month to $26 a month gets us there. In addition to the additional cans, making them just a whole $1, $5, $4 a month for anybody that does have those. That gets us estimated wise back to full cost recovery for that program. Next year, when we bid it out, we will probably look at some different provisions within the contract or terms. But for all intents and purposes, we're happy with All-Star. They've been providing good work to us, and we've been paying them obviously per the contract. We just haven't been fully recovering the full cost of it the last couple of years.
Okay. So can you just help everybody to understand why a recycle additional is $4 and a recycle and a trash is $5? Because they're like both the same size and model. One is green and one is tan. So is it because of the, when you have to throw it in the landfill, that charge with just trash?
I cannot help you with that. I would ask, Ann, do you know anything about that? There we go.
Go, Mayor.
Nailed it.
Thank you. All right. I just wanted to make sure it's clear for the record and for everybody listening.
We'll have we usually have, I think we usually have it on the public hearing date, but a sample bill, we usually mark that up in the presentation. I have that. I'll have that for the 18th as well, for water, sewer, electric, solid waste.
Gotcha.
I did want to mention too, even at $26 a month, when we did a peer review of the other communities in our area and the cost for garbage, recycling, and yard waste, which is all part of that total cost, we are still on the lower side of what others are getting charged currently. And bulk items.
And bulk, yeah.
Sorry. Yes, so the suite of services that we get at the that the residents get at the $26 a month, comparatively is still very attractive and competitive.
All right.
Still got plenty of time. You can.
Can we talk about insurance?
Health insurance?
Correct.
Okay.
So, it's been my experience that the North Carolina State Health Plan, which is the one that we and many other municipalities in the state use, it seems like there are annual increases every year, and some of them even more substantial than other years. So what is our game plan when it comes to anticipating that these costs are going to continue to increase? And what are we doing to be able to be prepared for an increase that we have no idea if it's going to be 25% or 50% or 100%?
And we won't know until August or so.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah, so that's been a big challenge. I will say, the new treasurer's come in, obviously done, I say new, he's been on the job for better part 2 years now, I believe. He's obviously done an evaluation of the program, of the overall health plan, and has determined that there are some cost shortfalls, or excuse me, there's revenue shortfalls that were requiring increases that are probably a little more substantial than we had even seen in these other years, as well as the implementation of that, I want to say fuel surcharge, 2.4% retiree surcharge, that was completely unexpected for many of the members of the health plan. They have provided in some of their analysis, kind of very similar to what we look like with our rate models, where we're looking out 3 to 5 years, 10 years, maybe even. They have provided some of that data to us in terms of, hey, here's what you probably should start looking at in terms of projected increases over the years. We have taken that into account. The biggest challenge that we have, obviously, is that we cannot negotiate. The decision to enter the state health plan, we did evaluate that when the surcharge came up, because if you recall, the surcharge is better part of $700,000 impact annually to us, and that's only going to continue to rise, obviously. But the general statutes are very clear. A decision to enter the state health plan as a member is irrevocable. So it's Hotel California. Once you're in, you can't check out. And so we have had conversations with some other peer communities, Goldsboro being probably the next largest community or one of the larger communities of the municipalities that are members of the health plan. A few of us have had conversations, about what, if we went to the market, could we even do better than what we're currently seeing? I'm hoping, particularly with some of the major changes that the treasurer's looking at doing and possibly rebidding this out, even I think was the latest I had heard, that may help keep some of those cost pressures from being passed on, from occurring at the current rate that they're projecting. So we're going to continue to monitor it. As of right now, I do not believe in the conversations we've had that there is an option to leave the state health plan, even if you wanted to. Obviously, politics being what they are, there's always potential that something bill changes something down the road. But for now, we're going ahead and in our models for financial models for looking out the next 5 years, we're going ahead and using their projected increases as of right now and hoping that they're able to negotiate a little better if they bid it out.
Okay, that's good to know. And not having jumped all into this, there's a couple things I'll make sure. One, mostly, as it pertains to like the fire department, included in your budget is any funding or whatever we need for GPS technology or for, what we need to hook up with the light at Highway 70 and Robertson Street, like all of those kind of tweak things that are going to be relatively new to us.
We did place a $750,000 placeholder in the budget to be able to move forward with traffic preemption. So currently, I think we've got an RFQ out for that to get the ball rolling on it. So as soon as the information comes back, we can start moving forward on that to identify the correct vendor for us. And then at this point in time, we're not sure if the 750 is a phase one or if it covers the entire project for us in town here, since we have a relatively small number of intersections. But then we would look forward, my goal would be let that be the basis of design for new intersections going forward if possible, so that either the developer or whoever puts it in there, I don't know if that's an option, or we have additional phases going forward. It's a much smaller price so that we keep up with growth and progress. But that would be preempting every intersection from every direction.
Okay.
That would be available for fire, police, even if the county wanted to jump on it, EMS as well.
And do you know of, or are we looking for any sort of grant funding or anything, free money that's out there towards this?
We have had our grant writer looking for that.
Okay.
There's some potentials coming up in the next couple of months, but as of right now, there's none out there.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you all very much.
All right. And now we're going to take a 10-minute break. for legal advice and personnel matter, closed session. I have a motion by Ms. Anderson, and who's second? Ms. Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.